the provincial appointee that has been provided to the North Huron Police Services Board of Kathy. So I'm glad to see that the province is moving forward with that. So I will move on to the minutes of the previous meeting of December the 19th. Do I have a mover to move those minutes as presented? Joel moves. Bill seconds. Any clarifications or questions or issues? Seeing none. All those in favor of those? Carried. Okay. Police Chief's report for the month of January. Chief?
Okay, our calls for service in December were 106. 5 of those were assisting the OPP, and 2 of those were dispatches to back them up in their area. During the same period in 2016, we had 115 calls. So again, we're down slightly for 2017. And I put the, excuse me, the crime statistics summary for the third quarter of 2017. I forwarded that and it's attached to the agenda. Last meeting I mentioned the building problems that we're having. The roof is still leaking. It's leaking in the boardroom there today, and our garage door has been repaired. Community presentations, I gave a presentation on citizenship and law to the civics class at FE Medill on the 9th of January, and I did a fraud presentation to St. Andrew's Church Coffee Club on the 11th of January. An issue that we're going to have to move forward with if council decides to keep us around is replacement of the SIG Arms handguns that we use. They are getting old. They're more than between 25 and 30 years old. We had a firing pin break on one of our range practices, and due to wear and tear, the metal is becoming brittle and it does pose a safety risk to our officers. So again, if we remain after the OPP costing process, then that'll be an urgent requirement to replace. And after everything's said and done, I'll have an in-camera personnel issue to deal with.
Okay. Any questions for the chief on his report? Seeing none, take a motion to accept the police chief's report as presented. No moves. Kathy seconds. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we'll move on to the bills and accounts for the period of up till December the 31st.
It's actually to the 18th, but I had to do it in 2 because it spanned the year. I had to do it in 2 sections and add them together.
Okay.
So it's January 18th is the
January 18th is the cutoff. Okay. Are there any questions with regards to the bills and accounts?
Purchased the BFL.
Joel?
Sorry. Purchase for the BFL. What is that? Just curious to know.
Is that under optic, I believe?
Insurance.
Insurance.
Yeah, insurance, okay.
DFL is the insurance company for the township.
It's for the
It's the insurance provider for the township.
for the vehicles, sorry? Or
Just general.
okay.
Any other questions with regards to the accounts? I'm seeing none. So I'll take a motion that the Police Services Board hereby authorizes and approves payments of bills and accounts in a total amount of $1,646.77 for the period ending January 18th, 2018. Yolanda moves that. Kathy seconds it. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, bylaws. 01/2018. So this is being a bylaw to govern and proceedings of the Township of North Huron, to be introduced, read a first, second, third, and final time, signed by the chair and the secretary, and engrossed in the bylaw book. So this is the changes to the procedural bylaw to allow the meetings to be held in this room, and videotaped for the public, as well as the closed sessions will be taped as the camera is sitting back there when the closed sessions are happening. I'll take a mover for that bylaw. Yolanda moves that. Joan seconds it. Any questions with the update of the bylaw? All those in favor? Carried. Okay. So we have some correspondence here. Does anybody, any member want to pull any of the correspondence out? So 5 elections and a couple of police chief disclosure, chief's memos from the ministry. I'm not seeing any, so I'll take a motion to hereby direct the correspondence for the January 23rd meeting to be ordered, read, and filed. Bill moves that. Kathy seconds. All those in favor? Carried. Is there any new business?
I don't know if it's really new business, but I was at Roma for the last couple of days, and we had 2 delegations, the Reeve, Dwayne, and myself. The first was meeting with the PC critic Ed Hardiman, Minister of Housing and Rural Affairs, to discuss the changes of Bill 175 and how they're going to affect us as a small municipality with our own police services. It's the whole community safety bill. And then we also met with the Minister of the Attorney General on Monday and presented him again our letter that we went through and outlined some of the sections and points within that bill that we as a smaller municipality just are going to be struggling to meet some of those mandated requirements that the bill will present to us. So both are very receptive to that and will take into consideration our situation.
Was there any other delegations at that time discussing the same issues that you're aware of?
I don't know, not that I know of. But I know that we aren't the only police service, especially in rural communities, that are concerned about that. And especially since we have our own, it's a little bit onerous for us to undertake such a feat.
Okay. I guess we'll wait to see if there's any response from the province on changes to those bills, to see if they're going to be, what the impact, their result is going to be.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice, which is a great time to go on vacation. At the last OACP meeting, zone meeting in Orangeville, they mentioned that it will come into effect early 2019 by the time they get all the regulations written for it.
Yeah. And that will give us exactly 12 months to comply with everything within that bill. And some of those projects are rather large. And so Dwayne mentioned that because we're in the middle of doing a whole asset management project as well, that we just do not have the staff resources to be able to undertake 2 large projects like that.
Wondering if it might be valuable to have just a synopsis for the board as it relates to that bill and what general impacts we're thinking that they may have if the police service board, if the police service is in existence, because obviously we need to understand that.
Exactly,
So wondering if we should maybe request something from the chief or Dwayne about something that we could at least get a synopsis about what that bill could impact for that.
So Dwayne and did write a letter to both the ministers outlining the sections of Bill 175 that would impact us the most. So I could certainly have him forward that letter onto the board because it outlines exactly what the issue with the section is that we have and why.
Okay.
So and then I think that gives a clear indication as to what the issues are.
Okay. So I would take a motion to request that letter for that information from the CAO with regards to Bill 175. Joan moves that. Bill seconds it. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so we'll move on to other board member inquiries or reports if there was any. Okay, I'm not seeing any. We'll move on to public gallery questions or comments. Steve?
Does the North Huron Police Service Board have accurate information on the number of patrol hours that are done outside of Wayne and what municipality they're done in?
Chief, do we have that information available?
We don't keep track of the hours. It's the number of calls, and it's Morris Turnberry for the most part. There's one or two that have been South Bruce. Is the royalty loop there on part of the regular tour or patrol? That is part of Morris Turnberry. But is that part of a regular patrol for William officers? It can be. It can be, yes. This question's for the chief. Yes or no? Can you guarantee that all Wingham Police Service members would pass OPP screening and background process? I don't know what the OPP screening and background process is, so I cannot guarantee any. What is the media accreditation process that must be followed to be added to Chief Poole's media contact list to receive press releases?
So the current process that has been directed from is that you're an accredited media outlet. So if you're an accredited media outlet, then you would be associated to that information. That's
what is your media accreditation process? That's the question.
Well, the question is what is accredited media is the question, because again, we're using the same terminology as we assume that it's like FM 102 or whatever. Those are accredited medias as you would indicate.
And what's the process for that?
You would have to talk to the CCRTC to know whether that's what the definition of accredited media is.
And you believe it's the CRTC that's responsible for accrediting media?
To be quite honest with you, Steve, I don't know who does that. I'm just using the expectation or what society has deemed to be accredited media. That's what I'm using.
I even had this conversation with the chief, and he said he was responsible for deciding who was accredited. So apparently there must be some kind of process, or
that's not what I said to you, Steve.
Said I couldn't have access to any press releases. And I'd have to file a freedom of information request to get in.
What I said was I contacted the OACP, the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police Media Relations Officer, and he recommended to me that you have an ombudsman before I do any releases to you in case you misprint or something and I have to have some sort of recourse. So until you get that ombudsman, You are not getting any releases from me unless the board directs otherwise.
So the other media outlets you deal with obviously have an ombudsman for you to deal with
They have
as well.
someone that I can deal with, yes.
They have an ombudsman.
They have someone that I can deal with, yes.
Well, I'm asking if they actually have someone hired as an ombudsman, like you're requesting a member of the public to get this information that we pay for. Just want to make sure it's an equal playing field and you're not executing your duties with any kind of prejudice.
I'm not.
So can you tell me what you're saying? If someone wants a press release directly from the chief of police, they have to hire an ombudsman.
That is the recommendation that I received from the OACP.
And is that the policy you're going to adopt and this police service board is going to adopt, that you're going to put? I don't understand why there's any barriers for this information. It's information the public is paid for, and it's information that's meant to keep the public safe, and it is meant for public consumption. I do not understand why you put any barriers at all. As far as I'm concerned, they should be handed out in the vestibule of the police station there.
So what I will tell you is they're released to the public. How it's being released is in my mind irrelevant because it's being released. If any public person can get that media release from any news outlet that they want to get that from, if they choose to get it on their own merit in discussions with going to the chief and requesting that information.
I have requested that information.
The chief has went through his process to ask what other chiefs of police done through his association, and that is the response he's got. I will tell you that conversation, I will say, has not indirectly has not come to the police services board. If you so choose, we can have that discussion with the police services board to have that conversation. At this point, that's not part of the agenda or the meeting tonight. We will certainly look at that if that is a concern of the public. Other than you, I've not heard this issue from anybody else.
I don't know if anyone else has asked and been denied.
And I can't answer that either. So at this point, I would ask that we move on. And I would ask you to ask one more question, if you could so please, and we'll continue with the rest of the meeting.
Sure. Comment on a question here.
Okay.
Swatting is when someone makes a call to the police with false claims in the hopes of disrupting or destroying their victim's life. Swatting is a costly abuse of the system that only disrupts and destroys lives. Recently in Wichita, there was a swatting incident where an innocent life was taken simply by calling police and making up a story. Does the police service oppose swatting, and what would the consequences be if a board member participated in a false call to the police?
So there would be an investigation. Other than the conversation which you're asking, if it came to light that false claim was made, the same issues would be dealt with any other false claim, whether it be a police services board member or a member of the public. The chief can answer that question better than me, but if as a police services board chair, I would treat that member of the public and the board member as the same person. A board member doesn't get preferential treatment because they're a board member.
Is there a code of conduct in place so there can be some kind of accountability for people that make?
So there's an oath of office which is taken, similar to what you witnessed here tonight. That oath of office is the only code of conduct in per se that has been signed off. There is a confidentiality agreement that's signed as well, obviously because we're dealing with personnel and that type of stuff. But to answer if there's a specific code of conduct piece of paper, no.
Council has their own.
Council has their own, but the intention of this board is different than council. It falls under the same guidelines as council because that's what it is not a council committee. This is a separate board that falls under the Police Services Act. So the oath of office is the only thing that we're utilizing as a code of conduct.
sorry to interrupt, but correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure if Tim, but police service board member cannot have a criminal record, and if they are under investigation, they are to remove themselves from the board at that time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if they're under investigation, they can have a criminal record.
Oh, we can. Okay,
If they're under investigation, they're to be removed from the board
that's part of the.
until the OCPC conducts their investigation into it.
But the board would have to be advised that that investigation is happening through the OCPC. But once that happens, if there's an investigation on a board member at that time, the board member would be then removed as a board member temporarily until the investigation would cease.
Who does this? What's this board you're talking about?
The Ontario
Civilian Police Commission.
Yeah, the OCPC does the investigation on officers as well as board members.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Okay? So we will move to 15, which is the closed session. So I would take a motion to proceed into closed session at 7:29 under pursuant to section 635.4 of the Police Services Act to discuss matters with regards to public security and financial personnel matters. So one's a negotiation update and the other one's personnel matters. Bill moves. Yolanda seconds. All those in favor? Carried.